The following is a presentation of the Healthcare Facilities Network.
Hello, and welcome to the Healthcare Facilities Network. As always, thank you for clicking on this video. I'm Peter Martin, the president of Gosselin Martin Associates. The Healthcare Facilities Network, as you probably know, was formed to help fill the pipeline. We have people who are leaving the world of healthcare facilities management. They're retiring, they're departing, they're moving to tangential industries. Our guest today, Erica Steratore, is one of those people who's done so. So I'm happy to have Erica join us. Erica, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. So Erica, and when I initially met Erica, she was the former Senior Regional Director of Facilities for UPMC Southeast Region. That's the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center Southeast Region. She was working in Pittsburgh. Presently, Erica is the Assistant Vice President for the WVU Innovation Corporation, West Virginia University Innovation Corporation in Morgantown, West Virginia. So just within the last year, right, Erica, there was a little bit of a transition for you. So, Erica, and I'm not saying this because she's here or even to embarrass her, but as you can see, Erica is the demographic that we want to keep in healthcare facilities management. And I'm not trying to make you feel guilty here at all. No, she was rising quickly, elevating up through the ranks. And I remember, Erica, when I saw that you had transitioned over, I was like, oh, wow. It was a surprise to me, seemingly out of nowhere. But then again, I'm not you. So tell us a little bit, Erica, because you had that runway in front of you. You were focused, and then the transition. So can we start there? What do you do at West Virginia Innovation Corporation?
Sure.
And a little bit maybe behind kind of your decision-making process to do the career transition. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yep, totally fair. And I'm going to give a little context too behind the WVU IC, as we call it, or the IC, that kind of helps tie those pieces, those threads together a little bit better. So the Innovation Corp was formerly an oral solid dose pharmaceutical plant. Mylan Pharmaceuticals was here, then Beatrice, in Morgantown, West Virginia. They had left, and we had this 1.2 million square feet facility, which is essentially the size of our Ruby Hospital across the street, that we got to repurpose into a multi-tenant building. And I say we, and I sat under Allied Health Solutions, which is technically I report up through the health system. Okay. So the building itself, though, is owned by both the university and the health system. So it's kind of, wow, you're right, not directly involved on the day-to-day operations within the health system, still on that periphery, very, very closely, and get to work on projects. And really, I'm sure as all of us, and especially in healthcare facilities, we are in the fire every day. You are just constantly grinding and problem solving because, you're trying to take care of your building, your patients, and making sure that everybody's getting the care that they need. Whereas this position was really attractive to me because I was still in healthcare, but a little bit out in the periphery. And it kind of just gave me more bandwidth to work on some of those. And as the facilities person in me too, and on the operations side, to do more problem solving that, my coworkers and my peers might not necessarily have the time to do because they're just so focused on getting their everyday duties and keeping the hospitals running. So that was very, very intriguing to me and interesting. It has been extremely fun. So that was kind of the why and the shift too. So while not directly in the hospitals, still very much tethered to them.
Was it a difficult decision?
Yes, it was. I was really nervous, I'll be honest with you, but it was also one of those opportunities that it just felt like if I don't, if I don't do it, I think I'll regret it. Certainly going to be a fun project. And I think the project manager part of me came out and said, I have 1.2 million square foot facility that we get to repurpose into something for, STEM, focusing on partnerships with academia, helping with employment and community opportunities in the state of West Virginia, all while promoting innovation and critical thinking in the workforce, and increasing that commercial payer mix for the health system here too. It was just, to me, at the end of the day, I was like, this is a no-brainer. This is a really cool project that I get to be a part of. So that was also, I think, and some personal, and, who would I be? But I'm married. So, whenever we had spoke previously, there's always the personal side of it too, and having those conversations. My husband had a good opportunity here for in the education side of things too. So it kind of just all aligned last minute, but still it just fell into place. So it felt right.
Yeah. Well, and that, that's really one of the more people don't always think about, like the timing of these things is so critically important. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's got to align, and you can talk to a person 3 weeks ago and the timing
Yes.
wasn't good, and now it is. So it's everything in life it's true. It's timing.
Yes, I completely agree. Completely.
Yes, yes. No, just as a little bit of background, and Erica, jump in if I say something wrong. But one of the things that surprised me, and you've just talked about, why you left and the opportunity. But I mean, I recall in your facilities career, and if you could talk a little bit starting in healthcare facilities and a little bit of your rise. But I remember when we were talking, you had told me that you actually took some trades classes, and I can't remember the ones you took because you wanted to be able to, when you're managing a staff, you wanted to know what they were doing and you wanted that hands-on. And so you were all in on that. And that was part of it too, that I was kind of surprised because you don't often get people who jump into and get the trade and know the trade because they want to set themselves up to keep moving forward. What trade was that? I can't recall.
I ended up going to a local community college here, MTech in Mon County, and I got my HVAC tech and training, and as well as my refrigerant training certification card. So my facilities guys actually inspired me to do that. They were great, but I think, and it was nice because it was an adult evening class as well. So, and you're exactly right, Peter. I'd have and came up through the project management side, but I did have goals, and I always knew I wanted to get into leadership. But just my style personally, I like to understand the departments that I am overseeing, at least, and I was not. My background's in finance. I have a master's in business administration and leadership, and I did not have that engineering degree, where a lot of times, oftentimes you see people, they're engineers, and then they go back and get an MBA. I'm kind of flip-flop. So the trades and the community and technical colleges here locally are wonderful resources and tailored a lot of the times to adults who are working. And I just tapped into that resource, and it was a wonderful experience. And again, I cannot compliment it's my team. They're wonderful. So as I'm on these shutdowns and, crawling through air handlers with even other partners like my commissioning agents, my engineering team, but I'm like shadowing my technicians, and I'm thinking, I have these drawings, like I know what they look like with the floor plan, but to practically be able to, that practical application piece, I think, and probably a lot of our facilities folks would agree, you need to understand what the design looks like in the field, and does it make sense, and why are we doing what we're doing? So that was, I felt I needed to do that. And I was very fortunate. One of my old bosses, give him a call out, Ed Dudak, was absolutely wonderful. Ed came up through the field as well, but Ed was always so good about providing that insight, from the trade. And I admired him for that very much. So kind of talking through that, and was able to just, take the training from the technical program, overlay it with the field experience I was getting at work on the day job as well. So it just made really, for me, it helped me learn a lot faster and get up to speed and understand and troubleshoot more. And then even on the commissioning side, with some of the existing systems that we had, tying in with new ones and things like that. So yeah, that's why I did it. But I completely recommend it.
Well, I mean, as we talked about, you have such a varied background, and they all kind of play in though to what you're doing. I mean, each one is kind of foundational, and you continue to use them all.
I do. I didn't say for finance, and I take that one for granted, is having the financial background and being able to look at your projects, not just projects, but everything operational, your budgets, why it matters, and having the kind of hopefully answering a lot of those questions before your leadership team has to ask you, just give the information that way. So absolutely. And I got my real estate license at one of my other positions when I was a property manager at WVU the first time. I was a boomeranger. So I was a property manager and a project manager for them. But the property management piece helps alongside too with rates and having that experience and background too in real estate, even that I probably now just again take for granted, that I know which questions to ask or certain things like that throughout all the projects. But
as you looked at your career, and I guess as you look at your career, did you I know you said you always wanted to be into a leadership position, so that was your goal. But did you map out, or did you map out how you wanted to get there, or in industry? Like, did you want to get there in healthcare, or were you open to kind of moving? What was that process like for you?
Yeah, no, I really did. So I really had for a long time, until honestly this position, had mapped out that pathway. As I started, in project management, I knew, okay, I still want to stay in project management. A lot of the times, if you're a director of PDC, you'll have, construction, facilities, real estate, all of those departments. So how could I, get myself experience in those through my career path? So that's whenever but I always made sure to keep anchored, project management was kind of my foothold, and honestly my passion point. Like, I felt like that's really what my identity was for myself. And then until I found facilities too, and I was like, wow, I love facilities.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's like awesome. So anyway, I always did project management, and just kind of went lateral or out and branched into the property piece of it, and then also went into the facilities management side of it. I will say facilities is always kind of parallel, even with the project management piece. I feel like you have to, you always have to work with those teams, to get a good project. You need to make sure that you work with your facilities team up front on all that design. So it felt kind of natural. And then, like I said, I would just really ended up falling in love with it, truthfully. Working on some really cool projects on the infrastructure side, chiller plants, boilers, air handlers, things like that. It's not always, I always like to say, it's not always the sexiest work, but it is so important, because, the hospital is always related to and compare it to a patient itself. You have to make sure that patient stays healthy. It has, your airways, our electrical systems here, the pipes, plumbing. Also, our patients can keep getting great care. So I took a great pride in that. We always do a good job if nobody really notices, right? So it's just kind of keep everything rolls. But if facilities is so important, if it wasn't there, we wouldn't have a house to work in. So
exactly. Now, do you like one better than the other, or are they? I think you mentioned they're parallel. Are PDC and FM still kind of
I'd say the same in my mind. No, I don't think so. I think more than anything, it's probably just having now the whole experience as a whole. And I definitely appreciate, strengths or what one does and the other one doesn't up front holistically. No, so I guess I wouldn't. I like it all. I like it all aspects, which is part of the fun. It's whenever you have a project too, or a building operations, it's always changing. Your day is always different.
Yeah.
So
never 2 days like. Now, have you noticed, is there a from like a work-life balance perspective, and you certainly enjoyed the work, but have you noticed, is there a difference going from healthcare to now at the WVU Corporation?
Peter, I'd be lying to you if I said that there wasn't, but yeah, there certainly has been. Facilities can be stressful, especially in healthcare. So I'm sure if anybody who's in it absolutely knows. You're on call 24/7. And I always joke, I think you have to be a little bit crazy to like it, because, things happen, equipment fails, and you still have patients to take care of. So here it's different, because I have a building I can walk away from at the end of the day. And we still have emergencies, but it's certainly, I don't have patients here day to day.
This is Peter Martin. If you or your organization is interested in advertising or partnering with the Healthcare Facilities Network, including sponsoring content, then please email me using the barcode in the lower right of your screen. From the trades level to the vice president level, from planning, design, construction, project management, compliance, safety, and security, the Healthcare Facilities Network reaches FM people where FM people are. Did that take any getting used to? Like,
oh yes, it was weird. It was very odd. And I never realized how much to, like, even my phone on my bed, I would have it on loud, and I would kind of look for it. I'm like, okay, what did I miss? But you would wake up kind of expecting a little bit of an emergency sometimes. So it was. Yeah,
it's, you mentioned that, kind of weaning yourself away from it. I was talking to, I did a show with Carol McCormick, and I've mentioned this before. Carol retired as a director. So she was a director for Common Spirit Health out in Omaha, Nebraska. And she said to me, she's been retired for about 7 months now. So it was just kind of a catch up. Because she had these great plans, and she's really happy in retirement. But, she mentioned that until she was retired, she didn't realize that she had a stress in her life.
Yeah.
And then when she retired and it was kind of gone, she was like, oh, I was at, which was interesting. She just kind of lived with it, never really realized it, but only realized it once it was no longer there.
Yeah,
it's
that's fair.
it's something similar. Do you miss the pace at all?
Yes.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do. Sure do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I like I said, I think you have to be a little bit crazy to
Yeah.
to enjoy it. No, but it's fast paced. It's always it's exciting. And for me, it had so much meaning, I don't know, but if you're going into work every day and you're doing your job, so people who are there and those patients, and at some point they'll be your family members. It could be
Yeah.
you. It
Yeah.
could be, so I always took it very seriously and a lot of pride with it. But you always knew that at some point too, and walking those hallways, it's going to be one of probably your neighbor community member. So I always took responsibility, like great pride.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, as you know, that's kind of what keeps people connected to it.
Yeah.
It's that sense of mission and passion that you get. So
Absolutely.
you made the transition over to WVU Innovation Corporation. Now you went
Yeah.
to West Virginia, right?
I did for college.
For college?
I did not. I actually went to the University of Charleston in Charleston, West Virginia. So it's a
Okay.
private college down south a little bit. Mhm.
Yeah. Is that okay? Okay. So tell us, at WVU Innovation Corporation, you mentioned a lot of what you're doing, you're building projects and working with the community.
Mhm.
Is it how long has it been around? How big is the organization? And are you working with industries? I know you're working with healthcare, you're working with West Virginia University, but are there other industries you work with?
Sure. So I think it might help too if I just kind of outline the overall vision for the Innovation Corp. So it was April 1, I think we actually got the building. So that's when I'll say we're new, right?
Yeah.
So we were formed to manage the site here. So our vision is to catalyze economic growth and improve health outcomes through the advancement of STEM, essentially in West Virginia and in our neighborhood. So I always say neighborhood too, because there's Mon County, but then West Virginia, it might start here, but it eventually, like we work really closely with our state economic development group as well. So it's not just Morgantown, it's West Virginia as a whole.
Yeah. So it's a large scope.
It is. So, might help if I just kind of give like a day to day, hundreds and hundreds of tours with people who are interested in space, but not just space. It's really, I feel like, especially today, you might hear a buzzword ecosystem in the area. So it's nice because we have our tertiary care center. Ruby is right across the street. It's our flagship hospital. We have the university here. We have great resources. We have NIOSH, we have Morgantown area partnership here, right in town here in Morgantown. So if you're a small company, you're a spin-out company, you're looking to partner with, maybe it's the University of the Engineering School, if you have a manufacturing product, and it has been a breadth of every single industry coming through here, I will say, manufacturing to STEM to you name it, it's been here, pharma at some capacity. Energy, I'll say too. So it's always fun kind of thinking, okay, here's this person, here's this company looking to partner. And you kind of, say it might not be here, but it's always the central point of contact. It's the intake, I feel. And we always try to connect them with, if it's somebody at the university, here you go. Speak to this person, here are these professors, this department. If it's not that, maybe it's somebody that they come through and they need to work with the state. They're interested in incentive packages, so we kick them off that way, right? It's somebody over even at the health system, and we connect them with some of our docs and researchers at the health system. So, it's a space. They're looking for space, but it's not necessarily always just space. They're looking for those partnerships as well. So that's really what it is, and we kind of see if it's a good fit. At a high level. And then if you have somebody, a tenant who feels, yes, they move forward, a lot of the times it'll be schematic design or something like that. And that next step, and then they'll move forward into signing their lease agreement and then having a presence here at the Innovation Corporation.
Interesting.
So utilizing the whole ecosystem as a whole. And even if they're not here in my building,
yeah,
and we still hopefully we want to keep them here, right? So it might not be us, but it's another partner that we have that will hope connect them to, and again try to help them exceed. We really want to be a catalyst, help elevate people, give them resources and a place to grow.
How did this develop? And how do you go? It sounds like a pretty not
Mhm.
daunting challenge, but a daunting challenge. So how did it develop and how are you doing and what's it, what's it
No,
been?
it's so good. It's great. So I think, and this was before me. So
Right.
I think so. Albert Wright is the president of our health system, right? And then we have President Gee at the university. And I think whenever that whole acquisition was happening with Beatrice and leaving, they got the site for and also $1.
Wow.
So we got it for
Can't beat
$1.
that.
And it doesn't take $1 to run. Exactly. So, they knew it, they saw the opportunity. And then they brought on, and I would be remiss to fail to mention. So the org chart too, Stacey Armstrong is the president of the Innovation Corp, and then I'm the assistant vice president. We have our staff. So, they hired Stacey, and then Stacey hired me on to really fill the building up and repurpose it, because again, it's really good. We know what we have here. We think it could be something really great for the community and the state of West Virginia. So that was kind of the why and the how. And then it's our job really to figure it out. So that's what we've been doing. And some days, and we always laugh too, because it's like, really, some days are really volatile, but like good, like you're on a high, it's great, things seem awesome. And then the next day could just be completely tanked, like we're never going to fill this building up, nothing's going our way. But I think just keeping on, with a positive attitude and making sure that it was nice. We actually were able to connect with some other folks on a very similar project. At an old, I think it was old Johnson & Johnson building, and it had been years, and they have all since gotten into different career paths, but they had agreed to come back together to meet with Stacey and I, and hearing their feedback, and some of their, lessons learned was really helpful for me personally, because, we know what we want to do with this building. We could easily lease it up and it would be fine, but that's not at all, it's not at all what we want to do. Right. So whenever Beatrice did leave, there was a void of jobs. So we're trying to bring back things. And I always like to use the analogy of planting a seed. You really want to plant a seed because then, it grows into something more. Right. So we're trying to be very thoughtful as to what and who we put in here, ultimately to hopefully utilize the ecosystem to the best and highest ability. But some of that, circling back to that insight we had gotten from some of the other folks from the JCI building was, the J&J building was, they said they had focused on some of the federal, I think a federal grant or something for several years, put a lot of time and energy into that. And they said we came in second, which ultimately we lost. So they said, they said we put all of our time there and that was what we wanted to do. And they said, I think keep an open mind. And they said, be always, be willing to work with people who want to be in your building. So back to you people, there's people who really want to utilize and see the value in what you have. They said, make sure you work with people who want to be there. And they also said, keep an open mind, because I guess their campus was a little different. I have one building, 10 separate editions, all kind of like squished together over that long, like 50 years. Whereas they had several buildings on campus. And I think they used one of their buildings because it had temperature and humidity control for like an art gallery. And they said, now it's like for the school. And I said, that's interesting. I never would have thought that. And they said, us either, but it ended up being a really cool project, really cool concept. And it was a value add to the system. So that's always good to know as well, because again, you have to just do a spot check, I think, and make sure you keep your personal goals, your personal bias in check, and making sure that you're doing what you actually have. So hearing people out, and maybe it's a different idea that you didn't have, never would have considered. So I think that's been really fun for me. So.
Yeah. And that's a different, you've obviously used your listening skills, but you're applying your skill set in a different manner. What's the benefit for an organization to come to your building? What's the draw?
Well, I think I'm going to circle back to really if they want to use the ecosystem. Here in Morgantown. So, West Virginia is we're a smaller state. We're 1.8 million people, but also we're very nimble, and a lot of the feedback we've been getting.
I didn't realize it was only 1.8 million people.
Yes. So, but what that means is, some of the feedback we've gotten from companies who might be out west or something like that has been, wow. They said it would take us 6 months to ever have a meeting, with your state legislators or anything like that. And they said, we have it within a day. You can come to West Virginia. It's like, or you have, the people you need to have around a table within, even a week. And they're like, it just moves so much faster here. We really make things happen, and always, it's not my phrase, I would be lying, but I was in a meeting once and I really liked this. Someone had said it, so, but they were like, West Virginia doesn't move at the speed of business. It's like West Virginia moves at the speed of West Virginia. And I was like, I'm going to steal that. I love that. And it's so true, but I think too, and it's, everyone really knows everybody, right? So if it's not me, I know usually like who to go, who to ask.
Yeah.
And I think we do a really nice job of connecting people. So.
And how much is, you talked about community outreach.
Sure.
In what ways do you do outreach to the community? And I mean, obviously you've just described one, but do you interact with, or is a goal maybe to interact with getting the younger high school students, college age students interested in STEM careers? Is that a longer term goal, or what's that community outreach piece look like?
Sure. So we certainly work here locally with Morgantown Area Partnership and Ross Roderson and his group in Morgantown, and they do a great job. So we always try to, right now at that level, we'll attend to those events and try to keep them in the loop as much as possible. But you had hit on it. And one of my personal goals is I really would love to see something with workforce, especially within the trades. We're hearing that dialogue too. And I will say WVU has done a really nice job of reskilling or looking at some different micro-credentialing options for students. So I think that there's opportunity, but really trying to get a workforce program up, and what it looks like is yet to be determined, and how we play a role in that. But I think that there's certainly opportunity there, and we plan to explore and tease out every single concept or avenue that we might be able to do. And I would always love to see women in facilities and construction more too. So if we can figure out a way to do that. As
you move forward, what's realistic, not what you would want, but especially in this economy, is that impacting you as well? I mean, it's difficult times, so it's going to come into play somehow.
Absolutely. And it's funny because Stacey and I always talk about it. We're like, man, we would love to have this, like, much more like further and faster. But I know her boss even's like, you've done a great job. And we always feel like we're behind the 8 ball, right? But I think so having like, what's our time frame? I can tell you what we have. Like, we have a certain amount of time that we have to, like 7 years, really. We have to try to make a go of it for at least 7 years. So, but Stacey and I are like, no way, we hope to have this filled up, or like a plan put together within, end of next year, or the year after that. So, I think that we have higher standards for ourselves. So what's realistic, I'm not really sure, but we have aggressive personal goals. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, you would expect that, right? I'm sure I'm speaking for you. I mean, you would look at 7 years as a plan, putting your old healthcare hat on, which you haven't completed. You're looking at 7 years thinking, what? I can do it in 3 or 2.5.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody gave you a 7-year project plan when you were at UPMC, well, they wouldn't have done that. It just doesn't happen. It's interesting. What if you talked about a goal would be to, attract females into the field, we want to attract people and whoever they are, but, females too, especially onto the FM side. There's a number on the PDC side already, but what advice would you give to a female seeking to climb that FM career ladder? And I remember, speaking for you, you told me once that you had an old boss, and one of the ways that you took on increasing responsibility, they would ask you to do something. And what would you say to them?
Yes. And I will tell anybody that, yes, even if you're like, I don't know if this is going to be a good idea or not, but even if you figure out, say yes, and you hate it, at least now you hate it. That's been some of the best advice I've ever gotten. Truly. I would still, I would recommend that the same. I think a lot of it too, Peter, thinking back, I will say exposure. To facilities, I didn't get exposure to facilities until I was a little bit further into my career. So I think there's opportunity for us, and I say us, and even including yourselves, but in the industry, how can we get access to those K through 12 kids? Yeah. And I think if we can start, and just saying like, what might be a job that I could do, and making sure that those kids see that experience and really get and sparking their interest, right? So it's like math isn't as boring as it, sitting in a classroom and just learning your math problems, but how do you use math, again, back to that practical application, and why the trade schools, I think, are so interesting, because now you're looking at, oh, well, here's an air handler. I'll never forget too. It was like the aha moment for me. Whenever I was a project manager too, and we were studying, we were doing the layout for diffusers in an OR, and studying the airflow around the patient bed, so to decrease risk of infection. And I was like, that is so cool. I'm a nerd, but I was like, that's awesome. But I think really just, making sure that we get into those schools and working with those K through 12 kids and letting them see what all you can do if you're in facilities, because unfortunately there's always some stigmas around it. And it's like, oh, that's boring. No, that's
Yeah.
just, that's a fallacy. That's not true. And I think just really getting them excited about it is huge at an early age. And I think too, I've gotten the opportunity to sit on the board of the Education Alliance, which has been great, and they do great work, but their focus is on those K through 12 children.
Is the Education Alliance through West Virginia University or through
it's West Virginia. No, it's not through the university.
Okay.
So yeah, but they do a great job, because they go after different grant fundings, and they've set up several programs themselves around a med ed, so, and I always put it back on, we want facilities management kids and workers, coming into the market. But, us as industry partners, it's so important to hear the voices, but industry partners need to, make sure their voice is heard and participate in that as well. And sponsor, I feel like, get involved and sponsor some of those internship programs, for those children, so they can get exposure to it, see it, and just keep it rolling. So then hopefully it sparks an interest whenever they get into the through K through 12, whether they get to a CTC, if they continue on through a CTC, they'll go to higher education. Hopefully one day they're our future engineers, right?
We've talked a little bit relative to, how did you advance? Well, you said yes to everything, and you went back and, you went through the trades, and you got, certification, and, through that, you just kept climbing. What advice would you give though to, and we'll take it to a female, you're a female, somebody who's maybe they're not as outgoing or not as open to those opportunities as you have been, or as you are, what advice would you give them relative to keep moving up, and if you want to keep moving up?
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. I think just reach out and, talk to, I was going to say anybody, like I would say myself, right? Find those peers in the industry. Oftentimes, especially I've always found that women in facilities were all very willing to help each other.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of provide and hopefully answer some of those questions, and then just say, talk a little bit about yourself, your own journey, your own path. Talk about some of the challenges or concerns that you might have. And then is there a way that we can help kind of navigate through those, or help, maybe there's going to bring something up, that we might not have an answer to today. But I would always say, absolutely reach out to your circle of influence there.
Yeah. Now, within your current role, do you have facility staff who report up to you at your building? What is, excuse me, you've got these big picture goals, but on like the day-to-day relative to the building, are you managing the building? You doing the PDC, the facility? What does that look like for you?
Yep, absolutely. So I have a facilities director, facilities manager, and then we have a staff of about 10 staff our facilities team. I also have security as well under my department. So I do have that, and my team, they are fabulous. They keep this site, and like if anybody's in facilities, you can appreciate it's always been a preventative maintenance program and predictive. So they have taken excellent care, and they take great pride in their work. Why that matters is because now we don't wait until something fails. It's always it's on a nice schedule, and they prolong all the assets here at the site too. So 125 air handlers that we have, you know what I mean? So it's like they take they're very prideful. And if it wasn't for them, I would not be able to do this. So yeah.
Do you, is your building, do you have like mixed use tenants? You mentioned
it is.
So yeah, what's kind of that range, and what's the range of what you have? And I know if you had an ideal tenant, and I know you don't want to exclude anybody, obviously,
sure.
But what is the portfolio of the companies you're trying to attract? What would that look like?
I want to start too. So the current space configuration, we have office space, manufacturing space, warehouse space, and then lab space. And then the rest of it would be like mechanical equipment rooms and things like that. So looking at it from, can we can they go into the space that's existing, right? Or do they have to do a retrofit? We've at this point now have a really good understanding of the site. What's our easy, here's low hanging fruit. Office space, for example, would be easy to lease up. Our manufacturing space was built it was for GMP practices, so for manufacturing, which was a learning curve for me too, because whenever you talk clean rooms, I'm used to USP, right?
Yeah.
Like 797, 800, whereas
Yep.
clean rooms are a little bit different depending on whatever industry you're in as well. So if you're in biomedical, now you're doing ISO, a lot of ISO 5 work, and in pharma or whatever you might be doing, it's always a little bit different. So understanding that and what our capabilities are, so we can then communicate that with whoever comes through the door. We have a much better handle on, I think, at this point now, that over a year, I'll say last year at this time, we have learned a lot from then to now. And a perfect tenant, that's hard. And that might change on day to day, and you could change my mind, I would say, but really it's always, we like to see people who, again, really want to use that ecosystem. And what I mean by that too is I have a company coming in who says, this is what I'm doing. It might be, innovative, they're bringing commercial payer mix, that where those people might be using, insurance, the health system. They're saying that they want to use our students at the university or our community and technical schools, right? They're wanting to partner and do particular research, if it's with one of the researchers at the university or the health system, really just engaging, I think, more than anything. And they have growth plans too, I would say would be very attractive. How can we help create good careers for people here in Morgantown?
What does the employee of the future look like? What skills do they need?
The employee of the future, I
You got a career in IT.
Yeah, a lot of it, right? And we've been at conferences and hearing all about the AI and things like that, right? So that's been interesting, and what that might look like. Even so I think that'll be really, been trying to keep up with that and follow along with that. But I think remote learning, COVID showed us we can all kind of do some more flexible work scheduling, right? So it's, you're working remotely, but how can we also do our jobs remotely and more efficiently? So you look at facilities, is there a way, and, especially within, not even to get down this rabbit hole, but, if you have you're losing your staff to retirement, right? Oftentimes that was one of my biggest hurdles whenever I was in my previous position. So many of our staff were at retirement age.
Yeah.
And they walked out that door, it was cumulative. It could have been like 30, 40 years of knowledge that walked out the door with them. So, historically it would be, oh yeah, bring somebody in, and 2-3 weeks before they leave, and it's a new technician that doesn't know the building, doesn't know the systems. You have to start thinking a little bit more outside the box, doing a better job of succession planning, and training for that. But also, can you use different technologies, the remote technologies, to help get the talent? So say I have somebody in Morgantown who is a very qualified technician, but they're got to go to, I don't know, Princeton, West Virginia, one of the other hospital locations or something, if they would ever need to. And how can you share that knowledge? Can you use remote technologies to do that? What's the remote learning look like? So I've, spending a lot of time too with the future environment might be is also something I will say I do on the side, just trying to stay,
Right.
Determined. Whatever you find out, let me know.
Well, I mean, almost by, the name of, the WVU Innovation Corporation, it's almost like by title, you have to look at that a little bit, right? Because that's
absolutely.
Do you have thoughts on AI?
So I'm going to a conference next week, actually, around this topic. I think that we're definitely going to hear more about it. I think we're going to have to learn how to use it. It's going to be here. I think it's here to stay. And I think it's just going to be a matter of us, that learning curve and understanding it as it rolls out. So I expect to see it, I guess, is what I'm saying. So what that looks like today, I couldn't tell you. But it'll be interesting to see what it looks like even over the next year. If you look at a piece of equipment, and I'm going back to using the health system, how it all matters. Your infrastructure matters. At the end of the day, it matters. You have to make sure you have the right infrastructure in place to support the need of what your business is, right? Absolutely. So, and stuff will inevitably always break. So I think that we have to make sure we understand how we're going to maintenance it. So even if it's new and all these technologies, but what does that look like on the back end? And hopefully we can be a little bit more holistic on the approach for whenever all these new things do come out and, understand, well, what does maintenancing an EV station look like? What does maintenancing this new remote technology for my health system look like? What does that look like? How do now facilities and IT work together? Does that change?
Sure.
Even that side of it, like with the building automation systems, how does it marry in? How can we troubleshoot? So all of those things too. It's all in my mind. I think it's still all kind of connected.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just, do you, relative to your role now, is there not a political component in terms of like right versus left, Democrat versus Republican, but do you need to use, like, are you dealing with some politicians as well? And are you utilizing your skills on that interaction? And if so, what has that been like for you? I mean, obviously you dealt with the C-suite, but politicians are a little bit different. Do you do that? And if so, what's that been like?
Yes, and I've enjoyed it because that was something I've never been really exposed to a whole lot.
Yep.
So understanding, how policy affects business and what we do has been really eye-opening.
Yeah.
And I will say it's very important. So I've really enjoyed that side of it. And then Stacy, my boss, obviously she'll end up getting a lot more involved at that level, but I found it really interesting.
Somebody wanted more innovation, somebody wanted more innovation, they go to you.
Oh, me.
So that innovation person wanted more information. Where do they go? How can they learn more?
Well, I always, me personally, I like to get out, research, the ASHI website and any of those conferences that you see. A lot of our industry partners, our vendors and things like that, oftentimes will be posting lunch and learns, going to conferences, hearing about that. Locally, we have, that was through my board, but we had a speaker coming in on AI. Your local universities will often have resources to that with the professors. Again, back to industry partners that they'll give speeches on and things like that. So,
and you guys have and you also there's a website too if they want more info on you guys.
We do.
Well, I'd like to thank my guest, Erica Steratore. Erica is the Assistant Vice President, WVU Innovation Corporation, Morgantown, West Virginia. Thanks for your time this morning, Erica.
It's been a pleasure, Peter. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Healthcare Facilities Network.